Have you ever felt that icy dread crawl up your spine, knowing your boss isn't just bad, but truly rotten, willing to sacrifice anything or anyone for profit? I thought I had seen it all in the corporate jungle, but nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for Julian Thorne, a man who built his empire on secrets and lies, nearly taking my sanity with it. This isn't just a story about a bad boss. It's a chilling account of how one man's greed almost destroyed a company, countless lives, and my own sense of right and wrong, all centered around a popular product you might even know. Buckle up, because the truth about Viridian Wellness Solutions and their Clarity Plus supplements is far darker than you could ever imagine. It all started on a crisp autumn morning in October 2022, when I landed my dream job as a junior research scientist at Viridian Wellness Solutions, a bustling office in a mid-sized city known for its vibrant tech scene. The air buzzed with innovation, and the lobby gleamed with awards for ethical leadership and community wellness. I was Alex Miller, fresh out of grad school, ready to make my mark. My cubicle felt like a launch pad, surrounded by brilliant minds. But my rose-tinted glasses shattered the moment I met Julian Thorne, the director of product development. Thorne was a man carved from granite, sharp features, cold eyes, and a voice that never quite reached a friendly tone. His office, a glass-walled cage on the executive floor, felt less like a workspace and more like a panopticon where he could observe everything, judging every move. My first assignment was to analyze long-term efficacy and safety data for Clarity Plus, Viridian's flagship nootropic supplement, a pill marketed to boost focus and memory, a household name for anyone struggling with brain fog. It was a golden goose, generating billions in revenue. The existing data looked great, all sunshine and rainbows. But my job was to dig deeper, to validate, to find new insights. I felt like a detective, sifting through mountains of spreadsheets and lab reports, cross-referencing studies that spanned years. It was tedious work, but I loved the meticulous nature of it, the quiet hum of the servers my only companion late into the night. My internal monologue was a constant stream of scientific inquiry. What if this variable was isolated? What about that control group's outlier? Then it hit me, like a sudden cold wave crashing over a sunny beach. I was looking at a specific demographic subgroup, prenatal users, women who had taken Clarity Plus during pregnancy, and the numbers were off. Not wildly, not in a way that screamed danger, but enough to prickle the hairs on my arms. There was a statistically significant, albeit small, correlation between prenatal use and certain developmental markers in children. It wasn't a smoking gun, more like a wispy trail suggesting there might be a fire somewhere. My heart began to race. This wasn't just statistical noise. This was an anomaly that needed exploring, an uncomfortable truth peeking out from behind perfectly curated datasets. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. This was serious, potentially devastating, and it challenged everything Viridian stood for. I immediately scheduled a meeting with Thorne. I walked into his glass office, a thick binder of my findings clutched in my trembling hands, my presentation meticulously prepared. The corporate artwork on his walls, all abstract shapes and muted colors, did nothing to calm my nerves. He didn't even look up from his screen until I cleared my throat. Thorne, I've got some preliminary findings on Clarity Plus, specifically concerning prenatal use, I began, trying to sound confident. He raised an eyebrow, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. I laid out the charts, the p-values, the nascent correlations. His gaze scanned my data, then met mine. "Miller," he said, his voice flat, "you're seeing ghosts in the machine. Clarity Plus has been rigorously tested. This is just an anomaly, probably a sampling error, or perhaps you're over-interpreting. Our legal team would shred this for breakfast." He leaned back, crossing his arms. Focus on what matters, boosting efficacy metrics, not chasing shadows. We have a quarterly report due, and our investors want good news, not hypothetical panic. Bury this. Run more general data, something positive, and come back to me. Let's not derail a billion-dollar product over a hunch, shall we? My stomach dropped to my feet. It felt like he'd just told me to ignore a crack in the foundation of a skyscraper. I wanted to argue, to push back, but the way he said, "Bury this," sent a chill down my spine. The unspoken threat hung heavy in the air. This wasn't a suggestion, it was an order. My dream job was quickly morphing into a nightmare, and that was just the beginning. The incident with Thorne planted a seed of doubt in my mind, a gnawing suspicion that refused to wither. I tried to follow his directive, rerunning analyses on other aspects of Clarity Plus, desperately seeking positive affirmations, but my mind kept drifting back to those prenatal numbers. The ethical dilemma festered within me, a sharp splinter under my skin. I began to feel the weight of it in my shoulders, a constant tension. Thorne's dismissal had been so quick, so absolute, it was almost rehearsed. It was late November 2022, and the festive cheer of the holiday season felt like a distant, irrelevant concept in the sterile corridors of Viridian. I cautiously approached Maria, a senior statistician who had been at Viridian for nearly 15 years. She was a quiet woman, always impeccably dressed, with eyes that held a certain weary wisdom. I'd seen her during my orientation, and she seemed like someone who knew the ropes. I caught her in the break room, nursing a lukewarm coffee. "Maria," I started, trying to keep my voice casual. "Hypothetically, what would you do if you found something concerning in long-term product data, but your director told you to ignore it?" She didn't flinch, didn't even raise an eyebrow. She just stirred her coffee slowly. "Hord, concerning?" she asked, her voice low. I explained, in vague terms, about a correlation, a subtle link, something that could be serious if validated. She sighed, a long, tired sound. "Thorne, right?" she murmured. My heart skipped a beat. "He's done this before, Alex," she confided, her voice barely a whisper. "Years ago, there was a minor issue with another supplement, an allergic reaction in a tiny percentage of users. Nothing life-threatening, but significant enough to warrant a label change and further research. Thorne buried it, said it would panic consumers and damage quarterly forecasts. The company paid out some settlements later, quietly, of course. He's a shark, always circling, always protecting the bottom line, even if it means stepping over a few ethical lines. He sees scientists as numbers guys, not truth-tellers. Be careful, Alex. He doesn't take kindly to people who rock the boat." Her words were a chilling confirmation, making my blood run cold. My internal monologue screamed, "He's done this before. He'll do it again." The realization made me feel like an unwilling accomplice. The pressure mounted in the following weeks, intensifying like a slow-cooking stew. Thorne became a shadow, appearing unexpectedly at my desk, asking about my progress on the positive data. His presence alone felt like a weight, a heavy blanket of disapproval. "Any good news for the marketing team, Miller?" he'd ask, his tone laced with an almost imperceptible threat. "We're launching a new campaign for Clarity Plus in the spring. We need glowing testimonials, not cautionary tales." My colleagues, once jovial, now seemed tense, their laughter hollow. The constant demand for positive spin turned our lab into a propaganda factory. My work, once a source of pride, now felt tainted, a betrayal of scientific integrity. I felt a crushing sense of dread every morning, the office becoming a cage rather than a launchpad. The true ruthlessness of Thorne's methods was laid bare when David, a brilliant but outspoken bioengineer, became his next target in early January 2023. David had a sharp wit, an even sharper mind, known for his meticulousness and his unwavering commitment to data integrity. He'd been working on a new efficacy study for Clarity Plus, and I'd heard him in the break room grumbling about unusual results and management pressure to reinterpret. He seemed to be finding similar issues, perhaps even converging on my own prenatal findings, though we hadn't discussed specifics. One day, I overheard a heated exchange from Thorne's office, David's voice rising in frustration, then Thorne's cold, controlled tones. "Your anomalies are costing us time, David, and frankly, your attitude is becoming a liability." The door slammed shut. The next morning, David was gone. Not fired, not laid off, but reassigned to a newly created department in a remote office on the other side of the country, a department everyone knew that was a dead end, a corporate Siberia. His desk was already cleared. Maria caught my eye, a look of grim confirmation passing between us. Another one. Maria, with her years of experience and intimate knowledge of Viridian's data systems, became an invaluable asset. She knew the obscure corners of the database, the hidden repositories where less than flattering data might be squirreled away. We worked in secret, exchanging encrypted messages, meeting in discreet cafes, or pretending to have late-night brainstorming sessions in the lab while actually digging through old project folders. It was like being in a spy movie, except the stakes were real lives, not just box office numbers. By late July 2023, we had amassed a digital fortress of evidence, internal emails discussing risk mitigation strategies that amounted to data manipulation, revised safety reports with key sections conspicuously absent, and even anecdotal reports from early user trials that Thorne had dismissed as isolated incidents. Each piece of evidence was a brick in the wall we were building against Thorne. My sleep improved slightly, replaced by the adrenaline of the clandestine operation. My internal monologue was now less fear, more strategic planning. Where's the smoking gun? How do we present this undeniably? The pressure within Viridian continued to intensify throughout August 2023. Thorne, sensing an unspoken current of unrest, perhaps, became even more paranoid. He started instituting random audits of our research, demanding that we present our findings in person, scrutinizing every graph and every word. He walked the halls with a predatory gleam in his eye, making employees feel like mice in a maze. The whispers turned to hushed murmurs, the smiles became forced, and the atmosphere grew heavy with suspicion. People started quitting, unable to tolerate the suffocating micromanagement and ethical compromises. The Great Resignation hit Viridian hard, but Thorne seemed oblivious, chalking it up to lack of commitment. It was a corporate dystopia, a perfect breeding ground for burnout and disillusionment. My own stress levels were through the roof, but the sheer volume of evidence we were accumulating acted as a shield. I felt like a ticking time bomb, ready to explode. Then, in early September 2023, the first cracks in Thorne's carefully constructed facade started to show from the outside. A small online health advocacy group, citing anonymous sources, which were not us, thankfully, published an article questioning the long-term safety of Clarity Plus, specifically mentioning unexplained developmental concerns in children of prenatal users. It was vague, speculative, and quickly dismissed by Viridian as sensationalist misinformation. But to Maria and me, it was a thunderclap. Someone else was asking the uncomfortable questions. The article didn't blow up, not yet, but it planted a tiny seed of doubt in the public consciousness, a subtle tremor before the earthquake. Thorne raged, calling emergency meetings, demanding to know who was leaking corporate secrets. The witch hunt began, but our evidence remained hidden. The irony wasn't lost on me. Thorne's efforts to suppress the truth were actively creating the very rumors he feared. By November 2023, the external pressure began to build, slowly at first, like a distant rumble. More investigative articles appeared, piecing together fragments of information, and news outlets began to take notice. They weren't yet pointing fingers directly at Viridian, but they were certainly shining a spotlight on the broader issue of unregulated supplements and potential risks to pregnant women. The company's stock, usually rock solid, began to show tiny, almost imperceptible jitters. Thorne, usually unflappable, became visibly agitated. His face was paler, his temper shorter. He would slam his office door shut, the sound echoing through the suddenly silent corridors. I felt a surge of grim satisfaction. Our silent, clandestine work was being amplified by external forces. It was like the universe was aligning to reveal the truth, and we just had to be ready to provide the final push. The stakes were no longer just our jobs. They were billions of dollars, the company's reputation, and more importantly, the public's trust and health. The external buzz gave me a boost of courage, a sense of vindication before the final battle. The situation reached a fever pitch in late December 2023. Viridian announced an internal review of Clarity Plus safety protocols, a purely performative measure, we suspected, designed to appease investors and PR firms. Thorne was at the helm, orchestrating the review with his usual tight control, ready to sweep everything under the rug. But then the bombshell dropped, not from us, not from Viridian's PR department, but from an external source. A prominent public figure, known for his relentless pursuit of corporate accountability, announced he would be releasing a comprehensive report in January 2024, alleging a direct link between Clarity Plus and developmental issues in children, citing suppressed research and corporate malfeasance. The news hit Viridian like a meteor. The public figure's name echoed through every news channel, every social media feed. Suddenly, our private nightmare was a very public scandal. My heart leaped into my throat. This was it. This was the moment. The stock price of Viridian, which had been gently wobbling, now plummeted like a stone, wiping out billions in market value in a single terrifying day. The company was in full-blown crisis mode. The next morning, January 8th, 2024, was a whirlwind of panic. Thorne's usual calm, controlled facade had completely crumbled. He was a raving lunatic, pacing his office, yelling into his phone. Emergency meetings were called, not just for department heads, but for the entire product development team. The air was thick with fear and accusations. "Someone has betrayed us," Thorne roared, his face scarlet, veins throbbing in his neck. His eyes, wild and desperate, darted around the room, settling on me for a fraction of a second. My heart pounded, but a strange sense of calm settled over me. This was my moment. The internal review, initially a sham, was suddenly very real. Viridian's board of directors, reeling from the catastrophic stock plunge and the public outcry, brought in external investigators, a team of serious-looking, unsmiling lawyers and forensic accountants. They swept through the office like a cold front, demanding access to everything. Thorne, for the first time, seemed truly afraid. He tried to stonewall, to deflect, but the external pressure was immense. News channels ran 24-hour coverage. The public figure's report, when it dropped, was a damning indictment, laying bare the decades-long pattern of dismissals and suppression of data. My internal monologue, "This is it, Alex, show them everything," spurred me forward. Maria and I knew we couldn't wait any longer. We had to act. We scheduled a meeting with the external investigators, bypassing Thorne entirely. My hands were clammy, my palms sweating, but my resolve was unwavering. The meeting room was stark, humorless. The lead investigator, a sharp-eyed woman named Ms. Davies, looked at us with a professional skepticism that could cut glass. "Ms. Miller, Ms. Lopez," she began, "we understand you have information pertaining to the ongoing investigation into Clarity Plus." I took a deep breath, and then, with Maria by my side, I laid out everything. I presented our compiled evidence, the archived research proposal Thorne had quashed, the emails where he dismissed initial concerns as statistical noise, the manipulated safety reports, the dates of David's reassignment, and the logs of his aggressive micromanagement and surveillance.
I explained how Thorne had systematically buried every red flag for years, how he'd fostered a culture of fear that silenced dissent. Ms. Davies listened, her expression unreadable, her pen scratching notes on a legal pad. Maria corroborated my story, providing her unique insights into the company's data systems and Thorne's historical pattern of behavior. We spoke for what felt like hours, a torrent of suppressed truths finally unleashed. I concluded, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands, he forced us to prioritize profit over public safety. He knew. He always knew. The weight of the world seemed to lift off my shoulders as the words tumbled out. The investigators didn't offer any immediate reaction, their faces like stone, but the next day, Thorne was suspended, escorted out of the building by security. The news spread like wildfire, a collective gasp of shock and relief rippling through the office. His glass office, once a symbol of his power, stood empty, a stark, glaring testament to his downfall. An internal email confirmed his immediate departure, citing serious breaches of corporate ethics. The company was in turmoil, facing massive class action lawsuits and a complete overhaul of its product development and safety protocols. Clarity Plus was pulled from shelves worldwide, a devastating blow to Viridian's reputation and financial standing. The company's stock continued its freefall, a truly staggering loss of billions. The scale of the financial hit, the sheer value of what Thorne's greed had destroyed, was almost unbelievable. It was a spectacular implosion, a corporate bonfire visible from space. The aftermath was chaotic, a true reckoning. Viridian Wellness Solutions, once a shining beacon, was now tainted, facing a public relations nightmare and an uncertain future. Thorne's actions had cost the company billions, shattered its reputation, and destroyed the trust of millions of consumers. While he wasn't directly arrested immediately, legal proceedings against him personally were quickly initiated, and his corporate career